1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Voice check. Okay, microphone's hot. All right, guys, before we get going, just a couple of minutes to go, we just want to get a voice check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Steve?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Ken?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, voice check, voice check. All right. Oops. Turn this down and move my satellite out of the way. Move, satellite, move. And All right. Well, hello, Glue Troopers, and everybody. Thanks for coming out to join us. I have Ken and Steve here, and where everything seems to be operating normally. We're running a 15-second lag, so that's not too bad, all things considered. A lot of things to talk about, and the first thing I want to start off with is you guys will be seeing more pictures of this at the next viewers build, but this is a survivor from the Tarbis crash that Fran rebuilt. I gave him the derelict pieces, and he actually made, and it was a rough kit to begin with. This is a plastic heart Vostok, and he rebuilt that. So, and it looks great. It looks better than it did when I dropped it when the shelf collapsed on it. I actually found an antenna that the other day. I was on the Tarbis a few days ago and found one of the antennas. I was like, yeah, and he used it. I think he heated it up and used it for some extra spur. But anyway, so congratulations to Fran on that. But Fran, that isn't the question I have for you. The question, let me get rid of my little logo down here. Livestream. Okay. I have a question. We're going to be talking about this Aurora 109, M109 self-propelled gun. And I was looking at it, and of course I was in the Army, and I know a little bit about artillery and stuff, and you know, and I know firearms, but this, okay, where's the other barrel? This kit comes with two different barrel lengths, and there it is. We have the short barrel, and we have the long barrel, and since Fran's an armor guy, I thought I would ask him, if you can put in the comment section, Fran, what is the rationale behind the long and the short barrel? I'm assuming it's range, but I was just a little curious why they would have, because that's a pretty, one barrel's literally twice as long as the other. Put that over here. So that was just a curiosity I had. We're going to be talking about this more in a little bit. So before we get rolling on the kit model stuff, I have, we were just before we flipped the microphones on, we were talking with something we've talked about for a while. You know, what do you call it, like Chiller Theater and Svengoolie and all these, what I guess you could just call them, I'm not sure, you know, kind of creature feature type shows that you have on regional television. And we've talked about trying to do something, get something started with a TV station, do an actual TV show, you know, local or regional TV show, probably kind of a creature feature or military movie kind of thing, you know, host it sort of MSTK 3000 sort of thing or whatever, something along those lines. But none of us have the slightest clue how to get started on something like that. And first off, wondering if it was even a worthwhile idea to pursue, but also we figure between all the Glue Troopers, somebody probably knows something about that industry and how you would even approach someone about that. Can't very well go up and knock on the local, regional station's door and say, "I have an idea for a TV show." And again, somebody's bumping around making racket, but. So, Steve, you were talking about up there where you're at. You say that there's one company owns all the regional TV stations.
Yes, they do. And, you know, I'm sure that it's the same way in certain, you know, parts of the country. And, you know, I mean, we kind of got the format, so we just need to get somebody to say, oh, yeah, we can do this with you guys.
Godzilla Air, fly us or fry. The short barrel is the original 109. It had a large flame extractor out of the fear that breach might be open before the powder burned out. The long barrel is for the 109A1. Okay, well, that makes technically 109A1 World War II is a self-propelled gun, and howitzer post-war distinction was blurred. All right, well, I'm assuming the longer barrel has a higher velocity and longer range, but that's might be a little research project. So anywho, we were wondering. I guess the first thing you have to do is put a couple episodes in the can, but you've got to work through, if you're going to try and actually approach a real honest guy. I mean, everything has changed so much. I mean, there's so many channels out there now. You probably actually have more opportunity now than you would have years ago when there were just, 3 networks.
Yeah.
Higher velocity and longer range. Yeah, that's what I thought. Longer barrel, yeah. But the thing, one of the things is though is that if you're going to do something like that, I mean, that's not something you do with your handheld VCR or your cell phone. You're talking about getting real camera equipment. That stuff gets expensive in a hurry. And what's that? Yeah. Well, actually, you know what, Dan? Yeah, you know what? That's not a bad idea. Actually, he's in England right now. Been in contact with him with Dan Monroe. And by being in contact with him means I send him an email, and I'm sure he gets 100 emails a day or 1,000. But he does respond to them. He's like me. He keeps them short because I'm sure he's got so many. But he does respond positively. That hey, we'll put it together at some point. And that's yeah, he might know. And I actually worked at a couple of TV stations, but that was in the 80s. And of course, you've got what they call it public access. But if you're gonna do a creature feature thing where you're showing movies and stuff, or you got to get the rights to them and everything, so that's you know.
Well, most of those movies are open domain, so it's not like you have to get rights to them.
Well, there is a market for what's in the public domain, but okay. The problem is that TV these days are not receptive to traditional entertainment. This is true. It's alive. So we, the whole, and we'll get to models, I swear, guys, in just a couple of minutes. In fact, maybe we'll save this for the after show because this related. I mean, it has to do with models, and that we would try to make models part of the thing. But this is kind of in a different bailiwick. So anyway, so getting to the models. Okay, first off, Steve and I were having a discussion over the past couple of days. Actually, it's been a recurring discussion about models that there are a couple of companies that have some really massive mold banks. Round 2, Atlantis, and they've got most of the existing molds from the days of yore, and they're actually not making a lot of them. Round 2 still cuts new molds. However, the guys at Atlantis seem to just kind of go with what they got, but they are showing a bunch of their upcoming stuff, so we thought we would talk about that. And I guess the easiest way to do that will be not the slideshow. I need to oh, you know what? Silly me. I'm gonna have to. It's on the intro. I didn't make a separate video just for the. But I'll turn the volume off the intro so we can talk over it and I can pause it. Okay. All right. So the Atlantis models. First thing we have is one of Jim's. I said stop. Why is it not stopping? Wait a second. Because I got the wrong thing. There we go. All right. Let's go back to the beginning here. Let me make this bigger. And these are the ones that are proposing new kit releases. And let's go to transform fit to screen. There we go. Now we got it full size. So the first one we have is the Kent Fuller Dragster.
Yep.
And they say that's coming out in 1/25th scale. Now, is this made from the actual kit of the car, or is it made from the upgrade parts kits?
No, this is actual kit of the car.
Okay. And $32.99. That's, well, I don't know. It's a little expensive than most of their models, but I guess this one has a lot more parts to it.
A lot of parts. Yeah.
Okay. So, and is this an original mold, or did they get this from one of their purchases?
No, this is an original mold. This is this not. I mean, this is for them buying the molds that they bought. This is an old the Revell kit.
Oh, Revell kit. Okay. Well, that'll fit good. Let's see. T Roadster pickup. This is another one of Jim Keeler's designs.
Yeah.
I'm guessing Pete probably
This
did
is
that.
that was a model that was another Revell kit.
Okay, so we're looking basically at repop Revels here, and there's some Revell issues that we were talking about. We may have to talk about here. Now here's Tom Daniel's Pie Wagon, and we saw that the real Pie Wagon actually still exists. It's in that collection in California. Was it Galpin?
Galpin. Yeah, that's a monogram, an old monogram.
Yeah, but the actual real honest to God Pie Wagon is in the Galpin collection. I didn't realize that was. I wonder if they made I mean, if it's a Tom Daniel design, then I guess they made it after TD made the kit.
After he made the car, yeah.
I mean, after he made what did TD? The TD. I mean, what I'm wondering, what came first, the model or the real car?
The real car.
Oh, okay. So then this was built as a real car, and then the model kit was made after it.
Yep.
Not like the Red Baron, which was they made the kit and people started making the car.
No.
Okay.
Is that thing drivable at all?
According to the guys at Galpin said, it is really, really, really miserable to drive.
But it is drivable.
It is drivable, but it's like your knees are sticking out. I think the one he hated the most was that pink wedge-shaped thing that was actually used in a movie, I think. But he said because the driver's on the outside up front, it was. But a couple of them he said are a real nightmare to drive. They look cool, but there's no ergonomics to them. Of course, ergonomics was not what was on their mind. Now, is this this looks like a regular magazine advertisement? Is this they're planning to put the 55? I mean, I love the 55 Chevy, but they're planning to put the kit out.
I'm still looking at the Pie Wagon.
Oh, well, this is like a.
No, they haven't gotten the box done yet.
Oh, okay, but the kits are being produced.
That's the catalog from 1955 that you got at the dealer.
Well, that is awesome though. But well, I don't. I'm glad they're putting out a 55 two-door. Is that an old Revell kit or AMT? Or I guess it had to be Revell if they've got them.
That was a monogram.
Monogram. Okay. And
meanwhile, Jim wanted to do that as the 10 millionth. They had one that was 10 millionth car.
Oh, that would be cool.
And it was gold plated. And Jim wanted to do it as a gold plated car, but got shot down.
Okay. Well, one of my favorites, the old El Dorado. I think the 58 is a little cooler because it had the bigger fins. Which one was that had the really big fins, 58 or 59?
The 5960 were the ones with the big fins.
Yeah, but still, that's an awesome ride, and so
that's a Revell kit.
Okay, that's a Revell kit. The next one on the Hit Parade is their customizing kit, which now you don't get a car with this, right? You just get the fenders and the customized parts, or there's a whole car in there.
I got to see the slide.
Yeah. The Buick customizing kit.
No, that's you get that's for the Buick Century kit.
Okay, so this you buy in addition to the Buick Century kit.
No, because it says right on the bottom there, you get 78 customizing accessories plus complete model car kit.
Oh, okay, good. All right, well then that's okay. Well, it's 1/32 scale, it's a little smaller.
It's an odd car to do, but that was what they made that car in '56. This was an old Revell kit also.
Mm-hmm. And that's cool. A lot of fun to be had with that. And now we had the 57 Cadillac Eldorado Brom, or Broham, however you say it. I always called it Brom. Is it Brom or Brougham? Or Broham?
Bro.
It's Brom. Okay.
Bro.
It is a truly elegant looking car. And I didn't think they came out with double headlights till 58, so I didn't realize the Cadillac had them in 57.
No, 57 was the changeover year for all cars. Because if you look at certain cars from 57, like the Imperial,
Uh-huh.
the ones made early in the year had 2 single headlights. The ones that were later in the year had quad headlights.
Oh, okay. Is that a government change or a styling change?
No,
Power cell drained.
the car manufacturers wanted the quad headlights
Uh-oh.
because they could make the cars a little more aero in the front.
Uh-huh.
2 smaller headlights. And they pushed for it. And the question was, the 2 smaller headlights have the same amount of lighting as one big one. And the bulb manufacturers stepped their game up, and then they got them to change the law when they met the specs.
I'm trying to plug my phone in because apparently my little there we go. Apparently my communicator said power cell drained. I'd forgotten to charge this thing, but I got the plug in it now, so hopefully it'll won't die on me. If it does, we'll just switch to using the phone. It's just this Star Trek communicator has a better speaker in it. All right, so next on the hit parade, we have the 57 Chevy. And of course, there's a 57 that has just a pair of headlights, one on each side. Build it stock or drag, and I assume the customizing features come with it because it says stock drag 57 Chevy.
Yeah, it's a multi-build kit.
Now, and this is also an old monogram kit, or?
I think that's a monogram kit, yeah.
These old new kits, I mean, sometimes they add some nice stuff to them. You get new decals, but I actually kind of like them. They tend to be less expensive and, maybe not as perfect as some of the newer stuff, but they're still fine. You can make a really nice looking model out of them, challenge your skills a little bit.
Yeah.
Now, the 57 Nomad wagon, I can't believe how expensive real Nomad wagons have gotten. My mom had one of those, and, of course, back in the day, it was just a station wagon. But now they're really sought after.
Oh, they didn't sell that many.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't make a lot of them. A lot of people went for, the 4-door wagon.
We had a guy in my hometown had a 55 Nomad, and of course he put an air conditioner in it and modernized it. It was a beautiful car. And,
why in the world would you want a 2-door station wagon? That doesn't make a lot of sense.
Well, it's the same reason you would want a 2-door Bronco 2 as opposed to an Explorer, then.
It's a what?
It's the same thing as people who bought a Bronco 2 as opposed to an Explorer. Bronco 2 was a small 2-door Bronco. The Explorer was a 4-door. Yeah, some people didn't have a big family. They needed 4 doors.
I'd imagine a vehicle like that made a real good company vehicle if you had to haul a lot of stuff around. Alternative to a van, but it looks cooler with 2 doors. Now I remember when Mickey Thompson, when some of these models originally came out, the funny cars, Mongoose and Snake and the Marines and the Army had one, and this is Mickey Thompson's. And so the Grand Am funny car, that's a $60 kit. That's pretty expensive, but it's 1/16 scale. So I guess
it's huge.
Yeah.
It's big kit.
Yeah.
That's a 1/16 scale car. It's big.
Yeah. Well, the nice thing about a big kit like that is it's a lot easier to work on because the parts are bigger.
I mean, when that kit came out, it was like a $39 kit back when it came out in the beginning, and that was in the 80s. That's not a bad price. I mean, you can't touch them for like $150, $200 on eBay.
Yeah, no, that's a good deal. I think they'll sell a lot of those, and one could argue that's more the kind of stuff they should be making more of. Next on there we have, of course, I was talking about Mongoose and Snake. You got Don Prudhomme's Snake Rail Dragster, and 1/24 scale, $30. That ain't bad. And I remember
That's what I
Mongoose
like
and
to-
Snake back in, God, had to be the 70s when those things came out. Man, that was like every kid who built model cars had to have Mongoose and Snake in his collection.
those are like
You're blurring out there, Steve.
monogram kits from when Mattel owned Monogram.
Oh, that's from a Mattel on Monogram. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
because of the Hot Wheels tie-in.
mhm. And of course, there's the yellow. There's Snake. That's the rear engine one, and I'm saying $32.99, still a 124 scale. And then we got the Don Prudhomme Pepsi Challenger Pontiac Trans Am funny car. And calling that a Trans Am is a little bit of a stretch, but $32.99, 124 scale. And I remember when those sleek bodies started becoming, the funny car craze caught on. And what's the difference between a funny car and a dragster underneath the body?
Not much. They're a little wider than a dragster. Dragster's pretty narrow,
Mm-hmm.
but it's pretty much the same kind of car. It's just different body. Now, this particular kit in 24 scale has never really been out. The one that was a monogram kit, which this is based on, was the Pepsi Wendy's Challenger.
Okay.
And then he went to this Pepsi Challenger later on when the sponsorship changed with Wendy's went away. And this one's never really been made.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah, so it'll be, something new.
Well, that's excellent.
They started making that body style in '82.
Yeah, I remember. I remember seeing one of the Berlinetta on the showroom floor. I was still in the Army. I wanted one so bad.
I had one.
Oh, really? Oh, that's right. You did. Yeah. Now, I always liked Mongoose better than Snake. I don't know why, but Tom McEwen's car.
Mongoose was a really nice guy. The Snake is not.
The Mongoose is what?
A really nice guy.
Oh, yeah.
Snake
McEwen always had a great reputation. Yeah. Prudhomme, not so much. It's sad we lost him. I think it was cancer or something. But
yeah.
But no. I mean, my understanding is that McEwen would go to hospitals and visit sick kids and things like that.
He had a sick kid who died.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he lost a child to illness. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
But he was a regular guy. I mean, I remember years ago when I was in high school and my first year or two in college, I worked for Mattel. And I was like a junior detail sales guy. And they showed up at, when they had the funny cars, before they had the dragsters, they showed up at National Speedway in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
So I went out there and I went up to Prudhomme's baller and I said to him hi, and I gave him my business card and I said, "Is there anything you need that I can assist you with or give out literature or anything?" He goes, "Don't bother me. I've got other important things to do than talk to you, okay?" And walked away.
Mm-hmm.
And I went over to McEwen and I said hi, and I said, I'm here and blah blah blah. And he said, change the transmission. And I was like, yeah. He says, well, come on, give us a hand. And that's the difference in the two guys.
So one guy brushed you off and the other guy pimped you out. Never say no to free labor.
Now, the Goose is a great guy. He really was.
Yeah.
I mean, I worked for a company, and the guy's father who owned the company, he owned B&M Racing Transmissions. And they sponsored Prudhomme. They got him started. They were one of his early backers, and he said, yeah, he was just too difficult for words.
Well, some people got that big ego going. Now, the Fred Flypogger thing as Superfuzz, they who's Fred Flypogger? That's not Roth.
No. It's just one of those bizarre character things.
we had one submitted in a viewer's build, and it actually looked like a fairly challenging kit to build. But
all of these kind of kits were fairly challenging because there was a lot of different colors, it was a lot of different parts, and they were all hyper exaggerated. So you had to do a lot of detail painting.
mm-hmm.
You know, that's like that little gasket, the 57 Chevy with the wrapping in it. That's a really hard kit to paint from.
Yeah. We had one of those submitted also. Yeah, just because they look funny doesn't mean they're easy to build. Now, this 1926 AC Mac dump truck, that's got to just be a rehash of the beer wagon, or the original dump truck that Monogram made that they called TD and had him turn it into the beer wagon. And Tom Daniel, that's a big kit at 124 scale, by the way, which is why it's $40. But TD told me that when the first thing he did for Monogram before he did the Red Baron was he met with oh gosh, man, I'm having a brain fart here. Not the one that ran the company, but the one that ran the shop. Reader. He met with Reader, and Reader said, "Can you do something with this big scale, 1926 truck, Mack truck, because they're not selling very well?" And so he looked at it and chopped it and did some other thing. He said, unless you want it to be, 3 feet long, I got to make it, chop the frame down, make it shorter, whatever you got to do. And that's where the beer wagon came out of, and which was a very popular kit. So they gave him a contract, and then he came up with the Red Baron and everything else that the however many cars he designed for them. It was a bunch, and it's apparently a very well-liked kit. It's just a lot of people don't have a place to put something that big, and it's kind of expensive just because of its physical size. But cool vehicle. I'd never actually seen a model that had an exposed chain drive like that on a car before, or on a truck, and I was like, oh, okay. So that's how they did it in 1925. Hard rim rubber tires and a chain drive. What could go wrong? Let's see.
There were actually some older cars that each chain was a different gear.
Ah, wonderful.
And nothing could go wrong there.
Yeah.
Oh, no, not all those chains flying around.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's probably where the Japanese got the idea for CVT transmissions.
Now they've got the 148 scale Sherman tank, and which would go actually very well with the 148 scale howitzer I'm working on now.
That's the old Aurora kit.
Yep. And Aurora loved their 148 scale armor, about the only company that did. And that's the late model horizontal volute and the welded hull. So that's probably an easy 8. I've never seen a 50 caliber mounted like that before, but it's got the long barrel 76, or what's truly a high velocity 75. But anyway, that's I'm sure those will be popular because there's very few tanks in 148 scale, and the kit's not very expensive. I imagine they've reproduced those magical Aurora impossible to glue together vinyl repel any kind of glued tracks. I'm gonna have to figure out. I got to put the ones together on this howitzer. I'm like, I'll give the glue one shot. After that, I'm bringing out the staple gun.
There you go.
Hey, it's an oldie but a goodie, baby. What works works. And,
that's right.
Now this one they've already been reproducing for a while. The Jenny, I guess they're going to reproduce them again. The old JN4D Curtis Jenny, which America's aviation contribution to the First World War. But the Barnstormers, man, they that airplane helped build commercial aviation after the war. But I still have to build the one that I have. I think Bruce built one recently, and pretty straightforward kit. Is that an Aurora kit or Monogram?
No, that was a Lindbergh kit.
That's right, Lindbergh. Yeah. And stalwart airplane. Now, although it's on a weird scale, 1 to 184, their B-36, the nice thing about making that, and I imagine it was a box scale, was at least you'll be able to find room for it on the shelf. I've seen a real B-36. That airplane is massive, way bigger than a B-52. It's just a massive piece of airplane. I like that box art with over the Golden Gate. That's kind of cool. But
the one that they have at the Air Force Museum in Dayton, Ohio. I think they built the hut to its size.
mm-hmm.
It's freaking enormous, and the wingtips are within feet of the edge of the building they put around it.
Yeah, I'm sure that the span of the wings of that airplane had a lot to do with the dimensions of the building at the Museum of the United States Air Force. And yeah. Here's your Linwood box art of the Lockheed P2V-7 Neptune. And normally box art, inspires and makes you want to buy the kit. But when I saw this Arctic box art of this airplane, and my dad had served in the Air Force in Alaska, the only thing I could think about is I do not want to serve in that theater or fly down there. But I know that's a Linwood box art. It's I'm not sure what the idea is with the pink bulldozer, but okay.
It's cold.
It is cold. It's so cold the bulldozer turned pink.
We should ask Mike about that. If there's some reason why they decided to paint it pink.
Because Jack Linwood knew how to get your attention.
He did.
Yeah, here's one of his cram the box artworks, the Lockheed WV-2 Warning Star, which is the Navy, AWACS version of a Constellation. Now, I have a little bit of an issue with this. I'm noticing they put the Atlantis logo over the old Revell logo.
Yes, they did.
Well, at least we know who made the kit originally, but I'm a little concerned that when the boys at Revell see that,
that'll be changed when they make the box.
Will it be what?
That'll be changed when they make the box.
Yeah, I hope so, because I could see them getting a C&D from Revell over that.
Yeah, no, that'll be changed when that was just they took the screenshot of the box and put the logo on it for this type of a purpose.
But it takes a box artist to make something, with all those bulges look cool. And he did it. That angle, that airplane actually looks awesome. Because I
had one of those when I was a kid.
Oh, really?
I did. And the reason I remember it so well is because I always thought that bulge on the top of the airplane looked so much like the conning tower of a submarine.
Yeah, the sail of a submarine.
Yeah, that thing.
The part that sticks up on top. It's only recently, like a couple of years ago, I was touring one of the submarines, and I call it the conning tower. And the guy's like, "You want to go up the conning tower?" Sure. We went up there, and I'm like, "Wait a minute, we're still in the hull of the sub." He goes, "Yeah, this is the con. Okay, that thing that sticks up top that everybody calls the conning tower is actually the sail." And I was like, "Oh."
Okay, I like the flames coming out of the engine.
Yeah, you like that, man? Actually, you know what? At sunset, that's what they look like and it's sort of like a sunset in the background because with those power return turbines, those parts return turbines that love to eat up the valves, those things were really they were barking that stuff out there all the time. There's a video of one of them flying in Australia, and he's got 4 of those exhausts on the engine. He flies there and goes, "I don't mean to tell you this, but you got fire coming out of every engine." And the pilot responds, "I hope so." You imagine going out across the Atlantic, looking out the window and seeing that the whole way? I'm like, nothing unnerving here, folks. Nothing unnerving. It's all perfectly normal. You literally had 3 power return turbines that used exhaust gas to spin turbines that were mechanically shafted to the crankshaft that added 400 horsepower per engine. Wow,
I always thought it just crammed more air in.
No, that's a turbo supercharger. Okay, a turbocharger or supercharger packs the air in. These were actual PRTs, power return turbines. They were mechanically shafted to the crankshaft, and they added a lot of horsepower. The two problems were the metallurgy really wasn't up to the design technology, especially in the valves. And they just couldn't handle the extra power and weight and heat and everything. And they wound up... That's why they used to find mechanics and do maintenance on the engines. And they would find chunks of valves in the PRT, so they called them parts return turbines. But you could make, with modern technology and model metallurgy, you could make that work today. And it really was an amazing system that added, God, 10-15% more power to the engine. They were getting wicked horsepower. But you were working metal parts that are rubbing against each other so hard in such hot, I mean, it's freezing cold outside and burning, surface of the sun temperatures inside. It's a miracle they didn't have more problems than they did. It's a testament to the quality of the steel and the brains of the engineers and the talent of the flight engineers that kept from melting them down. You could damage those engines very easily. Flight engineer could ruin one of those engines real easy. That's why a lot of flight engineers are actually old mechanics.
How many of those did they have?
What?
How many of those airplanes did they have? Did the Air Force have? Or Navy, excuse me.
I doubt the Navy had very many. The Air Force, I would imagine, somebody have to go to Wiki and look it up, but I imagine not more than 60 or 70. But the airlines operated hundreds of them. But these things came out just 3 years before the 707. And they didn't stay in service with the airlines very long, although they were using the military throughout Vietnam because they were paid for. And they had a long loiter time, which was crucial. But what you're looking at right there, that right there, buddy, is the product of the Cold War. Got to keep an eye on them commies. Impressive airplane. Much slower, obviously, because of parasite drag. This Catalina, I don't know the 1 to 104 scale. I'm guessing Lindbergh or maybe early Revell. But
no, I think it's monogram.
Oh, is it? Okay. I have the 172 one, which is a pretty solid kit. But what I love in the background, I was like, what's that in the background? Oh my God, those are guys in life rafts. Don't tell me that's the crew from the Indianapolis. Where are the sharks? Oh my God, there is a shark. I just noticed there is a shark.
Yes, it is. That was done.
That's the crew of the Indianapolis down there. Oh my God, historically significant box art. Wow, now I kind of feel guilty for being a smartass.
Why start now?
Good point. Fair play, Ken. Fair play. So, they should. No, that's crass commercialism. I was going to say, the plane that saved the remaining surviving crew of the Indianapolis. Although apparently when it landed, a bunch of them who'd been all, dehydrated for 3 days tried to swim to it and drowned. So, what a mess. Anyway. I have very mixed. Oh my God, there's another shark. I'm seeing more sharks in the water. I'm starting to have very mixed feelings about this box art.
I heard stories that the guys have been in the water so long that when they tried to pull them into the ship, they just scraped their skin right off.
Oh yeah, those poor guys are in bad shape. All right, let's see. I have this one on the shelf, the Cheyenne. They show it here in Vietnam, but it never, they only built the 3 test aircraft. But that's a helicopter that should have been. A lot of that technology did make its way into the Apache. EC-121 was the warning star in the Air Force. Oh my! Which one is Quint? Too soon. Max, open mouth, insert both feet. That's why I have a big mouth, so both my feet will fit.
That kid's got a lot of moving parts.
It does. You got the pusher, got the anti-torque rotor, main rotor.
The landing gear moves.
That aircraft scared the Air Force. They felt the Army was intruding on their turf with something that high performance and wings on it. So, but it turned out to be too expensive. They're going to be like $6 million a copy back in the 60s, and they're like, no way we can afford that. But it was an amazing piece of technology. There's actually several documentaries dedicated to it because it was so cutting edge, and a lot of good tech came out of it. It was not a wasted program by any means, But had they stayed with it, we could have. I mean, that thing can move and it can hang down. Reverse the tail rotor so it can do a slow vertical descent and just shoot a target up. It was it had a lot of potential there. And,
also, is there only 10 built?
there were 3 of them made, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. If it was 10, I don't think the others made it all the way to flight status. I believe one of them crashed. One's in the Fort Rucker Museum and one's at Fort Campbell. I know there were at least 3 flight models. The others are probably tested to destruction or something. But extremely fast, extremely capable, and it was jet fighter sophisticated. The one they lost, I think, was a PIO, pilot-induced oscillation. I think that may be wrong. But, you're pushing a new technology. They even talked about putting ejection seats in it with jettisoning blades so that because it went so fast, they're afraid that, something happened down low. Just pull the handle, the blades would blow off, and out you went. But they decided that was too heavy, too expensive, too complicated.
You also have to hope it works in that order.
Yeah, really. I hope it blows the blades off before it fires the seat. That's the Aurora kit. My brother had it when I was a kid, and I bought it just a couple of years ago and built it. It's got some minor fit issues. It's a typical 60s Aurora kit. But it's an impressive little, it's not that little, it's pretty big, but it's an impressive little kit. It was a very impressive large helicopter. And it was single engine. But the Aurora kit could have a better fit. You're going to be filing some stuff down. But again, just typical of an Aurora kit. But the greatest helicopter that never was. And could have entered serial production. Now this next helicopter, the H-16 Piasecki, which was the first of the big tandem rotors. It was kind of the proto-Chinook. Started off as a piston engine, I think, and then they put turbines in it. And to me, this helicopter's always fascinated me. And, it was one of the first really big helicopters made in America. Unfortunately, one of them was lost to a mechanical malfunction that killed the crew. Again, that's why they're test pilots, because you're dealing with a lot of new technologies and you don't know how fast stuff wears out until you start operating it. And I forget what it was, a crankshaft or a swash plate or something. I think on the aft rotor broke and there was no saving it. But the helicopter itself had potential. Piasecki, of course, sold out to Sikorsky, I believe it was. No, or Boeing. And eventually they started making tandem helicopters. So that was sort of a Chinook before there was a Chinook. And I think it's a cool looking that helicopter, this is a Max's Models live stream, so we had to go here eventually. That helicopter would look right at home in a Godzilla movie.
In his hand.
Well, no. It's flying the support staff around.
Or his mouth.
The dumbest helicopter pilot in history is in King Kong versus Godzilla, when he flies right and flown a Godzilla. So, of course, Godzilla just torches him out of, just on general principle. And I'm kind of like, the whole show he's following Godzilla from a safe distance behind him, and suddenly he decides to get brave and fly in front of him. I mean, really? I mean, they're stupid. Yeah, you know what? He was a failed kamikaze. He was a Japanese helicopter. He was a failed kamikaze pilot. But no, this is the helicopter. This is the helicopter that the heroes use to follow Godzilla around in. And I think it needs to be in glorious Technicolor.
When did the banana looking helicopter come around in relation to this one?
Actually, that was Frank Piasecki, and he was playing with those in the 40s. He actually fielded one that looks like that harmonica mouthpiece helicopter in the intro. I mean, it literally looked like a box with a rotor on each end, and the Navy bought a bunch of them, and they worked. So then they did the Piasecki Hup, and then a bunch of others. Piasecki was always a big fan of the tandem rotor because, although you have a lot of shafting to do, you don't lose any energy to an anti-torque rotor. All of the power goes to lift and propulsion, so they tend to be faster, and they can be bigger. And they can handle a wider weight and balance because you've got lift on both ends. So you have a wider center of gravity. A lot of good things about that design. Trey was telling me when he was in the Army, they called the Chinook, two palm trees humping a dumpster. But
well, also you don't have the when you start reaching the speeds of the retreating rotor blade. A single helicopter, it starts.
It'll go right out of control on you. But you don't want to. You can hit a retreating blade stall with one of these, and you don't want to, because badness will happen. But yeah, it's somewhat more balanced than a single-masted helicopter. You hit a retreating blade stall in a fast-moving helicopter that's not set up for it, like a trainer, like a TH-55. I know some guys that have done it, and they're like, man, next thing you know, you're just looking at Earth filling your windshield. That thing pitches over so hard because you basically lost all your lift on one side because you went too fast, and the retreating blade stalled, and it's violent. So that's something you got to watch. The helicopters that really seem to be able to handle that best are the coaxials, like the Kamov, but still, you don't want to even do it in those. But modern rotors on some high-performance helicopters have been changed so much that it's really hard to get them to go fast enough to do that, especially if it's something with wings on it, like the Cheyenne, because, hey, you got a wing out there to help offset that. I mean, that's why I think it goes so fast. But the Chinook can move, though. I think the Chinook's the fastest helicopter in the inventory, if I'm not mistaken. But I believe one of my pilots, co-pilots, one of my FOs used to fly them, said that they actually had a problem. The Chinook pilots get going fast, and the Apaches couldn't keep up with them. And you don't want to lose your gun support, but you want to get to the area as fast as you can. So pick your poison. But I always thought this was a almost Art Deco, cool-looking helicopter. I'm gonna get the kit someday when I see one laying around on a shelf at a good price, because, and I'll need a 1:96 scale Godzilla to go with it. I'll just have it hovering behind him, following him slowly. Of course, talk about something that came from the either genius or insane minds of the boys over at Convair. I don't know what they were putting in the water at Convair, but I'm pretty sure it was 200 proof. Because you're talking about guys who came up with the idea, let's take that highly unreliable XT40 or whatever it was, twin turbine geared system. Let's sit it on its tail, put it on a delta wing, and shove a couple oversized props on top. And call it the Pogo, which was almost asking for it. But
what could possibly go wrong?
This, as far as I'm concerned, first off, I think the Pogo is just bloody awesome. And it also proves that I think they were doing those LSD experiments in the LA water system, because
there's one on display in Lakeland.
No, the one in Lakeland is is the other one. That's what they call the Salmon, the XF. I can't remember the designation on it. It was the Lockheed product. It's the one that actually has a separate tail. It sits on a 4-part tail and has 2 wings. Which I was like, I'm surprised Lockheed made something that sat so high with such a narrow base. The Pogo seemed like a better program. In fact, I don't think they ever vertically landed the Lockheed product. But the guy, I saw an interview with the guy who test flew the Pogo, and he took off. He goes, it ripped right off the ground, and he was doing like 300 knots. And he goes, I throttled the thing back, trying to slow up for a landing, and it just kept going. He couldn't get it to slow down. And he's like, I bring it back to like idle thrust, which is still like 60% in a turbine, and it just keeps going. And so he finally pulled it back to idle reverse, or to idle, did a zoom climb straight up over the airfield, and just let it finally run out of energy, and just started milking the throttle in as it settled down. And of course, the problem is you can't see what you're doing, because you're blind trying to land the thing. And they were like, well, what do you think? He goes, the fly's great, but if you think some 200-hour ensign's landing this thing on the back of a destroyer in pitching seas, you are out of your freaking mind. And it was just one of those. I mean, it was the 60s, man. They put out F-102 on water skis. Ah, God, I miss the glory days.
The Pogo had a, for lack of a better term, a reclining seat that would, when it was in the vertical configuration, it would actually lean forward so that the blood wasn't rushing all to their heads.
Yeah, but it didn't go over far enough. What they needed was a fully rotating seat or something. or at least a mirror system so you could see what you're doing. But I tell you what, I mean, the 60s, man, we made turboprops that took off on their tails, rocket planes that dropped off of B-52s. We built supersonic bombers. I mean, put men on the moon with slide rules and cigarettes. By God, that was a decade that could do anything. We thought we could do anything. It kind of makes you miss the Cold War. But it was, they were heady times indeed. I don't know who made this kit originally, but
That was a Lindbergh kit.
Lindbergh. Every time I see the Pogo, I think of that monogram kit, motorized monogram kit, the flapjack. I'll probably grab one. And, on the flip side of the equation, we have the probably the most mediocre interceptor that the Air Force ever had, when we just took a T-33 trainer and just said, hey, let's put an afterburner on the back and we'll, jam a whole bunch of rockets in the nose and wings. What could go wrong? And we won't even put a gun sight in it. And, so let's take this T-33 trainer, afterburner in the tail, radar in the nose, rockets, ring around the rosy with rockets in the fuselage. Hey, you know what? Even better idea. Let's stick even more rockets in the wings. Yeah. Give it a nice spread. And, and operationally, my understanding is they were just really, really high maintenance because everything was solenoids and 1950s electrical systems, just, with big tubed analog radar, on the back seats, like trying to, tune one of those old TVs to get anything to work. It was they made it work, I guess, but it was I'm not really mocking them. This was the technology in evolution. Everyone knew when this thing came out, it was a stopgap, because they already had better stuff, on the drawing board. They just needed something in the meantime. And part of me is like, really? And the other part of me is like, that's really pretty out there, the fact that they were willing to do that. Can you imagine what it's like to salvo those rockets out of the nose at night?
Kind of would get your attention.
I guess the pilot would shut one eye, or maybe both of them when he squeezed the trigger. I don't know, but
it'd be like flying into a nuclear bomb.
Yeah.
When it,
You can see footage of them out there firing. When that thing fires, it leaves no doubt. What would really suck is if you had a hung rocket, especially in the nose. And imagine that thing landing and hitting the runway, and now I'll fire. Because they've had that happen in the Navy. Airplanes with hung ordnance, and then when they trap on the carrier, they prang so hard the ordnance goes rolling across the deck. We've probably all seen that footage of those guys grabbing that rocket and throwing it over the side. And those does look like a bag propeller. But hey, that was the technology of the day. That was actually the later model. Speaking of interceptors, the next thing they're putting in, I think that might be an old Lindbergh kit, was the Saab Viggen, or Draken, excuse me. And when I first saw this box art, I went and looked it up, and I believe they did have a big barrel like that they could stick under the fuselage that carried a bunch more free flight rockets. And again, 50s technology. But you realize these airplanes are going Mach 1 when cars had tail fins. And, but, these rockets aren't terribly accurate, so let's just carry a bunch of them. And then we'll go back in the dark in bad weather in an airplane with no ground proximity warning, and we'll fly into those fjords and land in crappy weather. The Swedish pilots were good. But hats off to them, guys. Hats off to them. I think it was a rocket pod, but I seem to remember looking that up. If I had more time today, I'd have gone and looked it up. But I thought that was something they made up for the model, but I think it really was a thing. Hey, you know what?
It was a flying flamethrower.
Well, though, guys, you think about it. What was this airplane's job? It was an interceptor, right? its real job was not to shoot down Russian bombers. Its real job was to deter them from ever trying to begin with. And in that regard, it worked. They never invaded Sweden. The Finns can't say the same thing. I always found it interesting. The next thing that they're going to re-release, and I'll probably get one because I just think it's too cool, is
belly rocket actually fire. Oh, I'd get the kid just to see that.
No, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Next, Atlantis has on the hit parade, and I'm pretty sure this is an old Revell. In fact, I know it's an old Revell kit.
That is the old Revell.
Yeah, that's the Talos. Now, it's funny. I was just watching something about Talos on a YouTube video recently. The Navy shot a Talos at something. But back in its day, that was like supposed to be the big hot fleet defense missile, if I'm not mistaken. And I was just surprised that they, at that small scale, that they would release a kit of one, because that's pretty small. And I remember, and that's $22. That seems like a.
If I remember correctly, it was like a $79.
It was what?
It was like a 79-cent trip with it. Anyhow.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, I think it's a cool subject. I just don't see myself paying $22 for it. But maybe I'll wait for an Ollie's dump. But I do remember this one, and you can't touch it. If you find an original one, you can't touch it for cheap. But they had the Army Tactical Missile set, Little John and the Dart. And of course, this is back when, guided, well, the Little John wasn't really guided, I don't think. No, maybe it was. But it's, you don't think rocketry when you think the Army, but von Braun, the famous German rocket scientist, team actually belonged to the Army. They were actually designing Army missiles. And the Army actually had a pretty substantial missile fleet, although they were all very small, like you see here. Mostly anti-tank weapons or air, surface to surface. They were basically long-range artillery, hopefully guidable. Lacrosse and all these others. But people forget the Army actually had nukes for a while. In fact, the last nuclear missile they had was the Lance. They were in Belgium or Germany. And then they gave up the nuclear mission, I guess, in the 70s, or I think it was the 80s. But, you don't normally, you think nuclear weapons, you think Air Force or Navy. You tend to forget that the Army had nukes also, and they had a lot of really wild little missile systems. They still do. I mean, the Javelin that's knocking out of those tanks in Ukraine, that's a missile. That came from the Army Missile Center. Even the Law rocket. So, I don't know how. My understanding, those things were very difficult to use and problematic, and the ones that were radio guided could be jammed. So they probably had fairly short lives in service, and I don't think any were ever used in combat. But again, their job was to deter, and they did that. So I might get that when it comes out, maybe. But this, if I'm not mistaken, the next thing, they had this kit from Revell called the Air Force X-17 research rocket, but I don't know if that was actually a real rocket or.
Oh, it wasn't. It never made it to production.
Okay. So Revell probably found out something they were working on and decided to go with it. It's a cool looking rocket, though. Hey, if it never saw real world use, that means it's perfect for our science fiction movie. And,
once again, it was launched from a mountain launching pad, like the Jupiter C pit.
That's right, man. The secret Jupiter C base that the Mormons have down in Salt Lake.
Yeah.
This is the Mormon.
Yeah,
this is the Mormon X-17 research rocket. Down in Provo.
Yeah, the Osmond Rand.
Oh, well, I know I'll get one. Of course, now we got a real aircraft, the D558-2 Skyrocket, and that's the one with, I guess, the jet engine. That is a cool program. If they did an Ollie's dump on those, where I could get a bunch of them for cheap, I might just go ahead and put it like tactical Navy markings, like hang some missiles on it, carve in a nice weapons bay or something.
Like the Skyrocket?
Yeah.
Oh.
You make one gears up and you put it on a stick. You make one gears down and pose it with the pilot, and you got a few left over, so you put them in like tactical squadron markings and hang rockets on them. A what if airplane. I did that with the X3 Stiletto.
I plan on making the Silver Dart.
Oh yes, from what was that?
From Jet Jackson.
Jet Jackson.
Yep.
Yeah, the Silver Dart. There you go.
Captain Midnight.
Captain Midnight.
That thing looks like it's got upholstery on the inside of it.
It's got padding. Yeah. Inside the canopy.
Yeah, it's padding. Right. I think it was more thermal padding than anything else, probably to keep the guy from hurting himself bumping into something. Because those cockpits were, if you ever see the real airplanes, those cockpits are incredibly tight. Your head is wedged up in there. Not a lot of room to play with at all.
Doesn't look like he has a whole lot of forward visibility either.
No, he doesn't. Hey, that thing only went forward.
No.
That's the only direction you need to see when you're going that fast. Now, this kit is an old Aurora kit, and they still have it with Aurora on the box. And that's the C-141A Starlifter. Yeah. And I got to tell you, I hope they sell it that way with Aurora on the box. I like that old box art. And that was what my brother was in the Air Force, but he was in a later B model that had the extended fuselage. This is the short A model. And, Starlifter was a world-beating cargo plane when it came out. Nobody else had anything like it. And that's
what your brother used to fly in.
Right. And that's exactly what it is. And I just said that, Ken. You're getting like me now, Ken. But like I say, he flew the Bravo models. I don't think they had any Alphas. Now, all the Bravos, if I'm not mistaken, were converted. They took in the factory, cut the fuselage fore and after the wings, put plugs in, made a bunch of other changes. The very last C-141B Starlifter in Air Force service, if my information is correct, was the Mississippi Air National Guard, and they transitioned over to C-17, and I was landing in Mississippi, and I saw all C-17s on the ramp except for one C-141B, and when I was landed, a guy told me that is the last operational Starlifter in the Air Force. NASA has one. That they use. I think it's the only one that, assuming they still use it, it was the only one still flying. And the Hanoi Hilton, the Hanoi Taxi, the one that got the troops back from Hanoi. I think it's at the Museum of the U.S. Air Force. But I wouldn't mind having that kit. I don't know how good it is. Now we move over. They're going to release some of the Willy Ley stuff, and Willy Ley was. By the way, quick note. We all know about the German rocket scientists that came to America after the war. Willy Ley was not one of them. He was already a U.S. citizen living in the U.S. He came over and became a citizen before the war. And although he was a contemporary of all those guys, but he was, and still had the thick German accent. But you can see videos of him online. I read his book, and very progressively minded guy, but definitely knew what he was talking about, because despite the almost seemingly comical look of this orbital rocket, you look at it, it did presage the shuttle. You've got the small ship on the big one with the booster. So, although, more or less he got it right.
And it says Space Force on the side.
Yep. So, chalk one up for Uncle Willie. And
that was monogram kit.
Yeah. And I always thought it was goofy looking, but I know me. It's one of those proposals for space. I gotta have it. Now
they did this one and the Space Taxi at the same time, which were both Willy Ley kits.
Yeah, and I got the Space Taxi already up on the shelf. Although I'll probably get another one at some point. Now the Iowa, if I'm not mistaken, they have 2 Iowa class battleships, but I believe they're in different scales.
Yes, they are.
This is the bigger one. And the USS Iowa, and only the greatest battleship ever made. But the Wisconsin, which is the one I've been on, which is at Norfolk, that's like a 16-inch one versus like a 20-inch one, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, my brother was on the Iowa when they recommissioned it in the 80s.
Oh.
Yeah, he was the QM. And the ship is now in San Pedro, which is right next to the container port of LA.
Yeah, Mike and I went down and saw it.
It's a tourist attraction.
Yeah.
If you remember the show, The Last Ship that was on
Yeah.
TNT,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
all the interiors for the ship that was supposed to be on the show was done in the Iowa.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. On the inside, most naval vessels look a fair bit alike.
They all look the same, pretty much.
But this is 1 to 535 scale. I'm not sure whose kit this was. It might have been the monogram kit. But the other one is 1 to 665 scale. And then we have the Bismarck, because you got to have a Bismarck.
Yeah.
And the Germans never really understood how to use battleships. They just wanted a commerce raider. And I'm kind of like, yeah, no, battleships need to be part of battle groups. You know, you send them out by themselves and they're going to get sunk, which is exactly what happened. But still, a magnificent piece of engineering. Now, the Bainbridge...
Well, the Germans used the Brits more as a threatening weapon. They never actually sent it out very often. They just sat it there thinking, we're going to come after you with it. Don't go out there.
Well, the Tirpitz spent most of its time up in the freaking Norwegian fjord, which is where they sank it. But the Bainbridge, I remember, this is an Aurora kit, I'm pretty sure, because I remember seeing this kit at Rexall Drugs in the probably very early 70s. Because there's a town, I'm from Quincy, Florida, and there's a town about 20 miles to the north across the Georgia line called Bainbridge, Georgia. And I don't know if it was named after that Bainbridge or another Bainbridge. I think it's an awfully small town to be naming a frigate after. But anyway, apparently, I guess it was maybe it was our first nuke-powered frigate, because normally ships that small are not nuclear-powered. And I haven't had a chance to look up the history of the Bainbridge, but that was the future Navy, with missiles and helipads and nuclear engines. And I'm like, yeah, where's the gun? We don't need guns. We have missiles and rockets and helicopters. Yeah, I want a gun. And they put guns back on them.
Got to have something to shoot back with.
That's right. Sometimes the bad guys get close. Now, I think Mike Mashat may have talked about the box art on this USS Ticonderoga, which I believe was an Essex class. And this has got to be, it might be a Bob Steele box art, I'm not sure. But
that was a Renwall kit.
A Renwall?
That was a Renwall
Okay,
kit.
I would not have guessed that. There's just so much to unpack here. I mean, first off, those are either the world's smallest Navy jet fighters or the world's biggest flight deck.
Yeah.
I mean, that ship is bigger than the proposed, America or United States class or whatever that super mega carrier they wanted to build was. I mean, maybe they're launching BD-5 jets off of the Navy wishes their flight decks were that big. And I love how they got helicopters, jets, and what look to be Regulus missiles all on the flight deck at the same time. I'm like, don't get me wrong, that'd be an awesome ship to have.
Right there on the box, it says aircraft and missiles included.
There you go. And I'm just kind of like, you know what? I'd have to buy that just out of general principle. Anybody that's going to paint box, I mean, look how big the bow wave is. It's coming out. I'm like, anybody that's willing to put box art that outlandish, and I'm guessing it's the height of a nuclear war, judging by the red sky.
Must be.
But anybody that's willing to go that far overboard on the box art, screw it. I'm buying the kid just out of respect. Oh, love that. I mean, that's, but you know what? That box art does exactly what it's supposed to do. It sells the kit. I mean, you're a little kid looking at that. There's things going on. There's action happening. And 1 to 500 scale. It's even small enough I could fit it somewhere. And now, the next thing we're talking about is a 1 to 60 scale.
I think you should get one for the boat.
What's that?
I think Ken should get one for the boat.
This is what Ken needs. He needs this 1:60 scale Viking ship. You get there it goes. I remember seeing this kit, and well, this was Aurora, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
This kit was made when the 1958 movie with Tony Curtis and Kirk Douglas, The Vikings, was
The Vikings, yeah.
that's when they made this kit.
And even as a kid, I remember seeing that movie and going, I'm sorry. They're just not passing as Vikings. Was it Sidney Poitier played the Ethiopian king that captured him?
No.
That's a different movie. No, that's the one with Richard Widmark. I forgot what movie that is. But, yeah, the Vikings. But I got to tell you, when I first saw this kit, I was like, who wants a model of a Viking ship? And I was kind of like, really, that's kind of cool.
It is cool.
And,
got all those shields down the side and the oars.
Paint my own coat of arms on one of them. And my coat of arms is going to be a chocolate-covered donut with sprinkles. But
I thought there's going to be Godzilla eating something.
Probably my donut.
All right.
Yeah, Godzilla would make a great coat of arms, wouldn't he? So anyway, I'm glad they're bringing that back. That is a very classic kit, and it's something out of the ordinary.
Godzilla knighting you.
And they're bringing back a couple of the knights, the Knight of Milan and Knight of Augsburg, and I just never really got into the whole knight thing, but apparently they are quite popular, and I can see why. It just was not the kind of thing I did.
They sold a ton of those things in the 50s.
Well, sure, because those kinds of movies were extremely popular, and although I got to be honest, I probably should build one just to do it. I mean, it's something different.
And the good part about it was they were molded in color.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about painting them.
Right.
Can you think of anything more uncomfortable to wear than a suit of armor, though?
No.
Now, the Blackbeard kit, I remember seeing
A facehugger from Alien?
Huh?
A facehugger from Alien?
No, the Blackbeard kit, Captain Teach. My understanding is, if I remember right, reading, I think on their website, that Atlantis, Rick and Pete, actually sent this thing off to get the mold to get recut because there were some real problems, or to be modified because there's some problems with the original mold, so they improved it. But it's true though that Blackbeard did, like they have in the picture. He had a brace of 6 pistols, and he had the little burning things in the tips of his beard and everything. And he was a big guy. He really was an imposing character. And there's a guy who knew how to leave a legend behind. But he got taken out by a British officer named Maynard. Lieutenant Maynard. Like, yeah, Teach, Mighty Blackbeard got taken out by Lieutenant Maynard. That's a hard one to live down. And, of course, we got the Phantom of the Opera, the glow-in-the-dark. And that's not much to say there. It's the Phantom of the Opera glow-in-the-dark kit. And then, now, the last thing they've got here is the Kentucky Long Rifle 1-to-1 scale, 4 foot 5 inches long. And I'm actually surprised that they can sell a kit that big for $40, because that's exactly the kind of thing that'd be perfect to hang on the wall. It's not a real gun and it's lightweight. So if you wanted to have a rifle, and I was in the infantry where our insignia was crossed Kentucky rifles. So I'm going to get 2 of those things, put them up at the wall in a big cross like the infantry logo. And those are the perfect thing for that. So,
and it also comes with 2 wall mounting brackets.
Excellent. Yeah, when I see those in the market, I probably will grab a couple of those. I may not paint them in color though. I might make them like the infantry and just paint them solid brass, because we wore the brass crossed rifles. But anyway, that's all the stuff that Atlantis has got on the got coming out, and it's pretty cool stuff there. And I think it's great that the boys are doing that. But they've got some other molds they probably should make that they're not making. And I don't really know what they have. Huh?
Yes, they do.
Yeah. Weren't they going to do the XLSR, that other rocket?
There's been a lot of discussion about it. There's part of the mold that's missing.
Well.
So there'd have to be a new mold cut. And they'd also, see, the problem is a lot of the Aurora, the Revell molds, the Revell a lot of stuff to multiple models, like windows, were put on the same mold.
Yeah.
They don't have the mold. So Revell has it over in Poland. So they have to get Revell to run them for them. And that's a kind of a touchy subject.
Yeah, I reckon so. Well, the next thing on the hit parade is the speaking of Atlantis models, they're M109. So let me make this a little bigger and fit the screen. Okay, this is the kit. I have it right here, and you know what? Let me put this up on top so I don't have everything over it. There we go. All right. They're using the same box art. This is originally an Aurora kit. It's 1/48 scale. And as I mentioned earlier, you have 2 barrel length options. And the decal sheet's pretty basic, but it's nice and new. It's got everything you need. It's, you know, these vehicles don't have a lot of markings. The nice thing about these, pretty much shoot it olive drab, put the decals on it, and you're done. Decal sheet, it's only a 6-panel construction, although the wheels do have to be... okay, I thought I'd flip that over. Hang on a second. Watch your eyes, everybody. We're looping here. Okay. Let me go back one more. Okay. Wasn't that one upside down? Okay, anyway. Here we go. If you notice, you have to make the wheels. There's 3 parts to each wheel. Inner wheel, outer wheel. Only the outer wheel has any detail. And there's a hubcap. I did that today. It is those parts actually fit pretty well. Did both of them today. Did not take very long, and you can, if you're extremely careful, you can snap the wheel on, put just a tiny speck of glue, get the hubcap on, and they'll rotate. But given that we have these impossible to glue together vinyl tracks, like I say, I'm going to give them one shot for the glue to work overnight, and if they pop, I'm just going to get out the stapler. Got it right over here. The old Aurora fix, the old Aurora track fix. But this went together without any problem. However, I cannot say the same thing for the turret. It has a little bit of a bow right here, and the back end piece didn't fit very well. It's been a couple hours. It should be hardened by now. Let me take the tape off. Kind of do this in real time here and let you guys see the results as I see them. And yeah, I'm gonna definitely have to use a little tiny bit of putty on that. Yeah, but it's okay. But some of the fit, I was pre-fitting some parts, and some of the fit, I mean, like I say, this is a 1960s Aurora kit. You know what you're getting into when you buy one. So there's going to be a little minor bit of a fit issue here. This thing doesn't just fall into place, but with a little sweet caress, it goes in there. And I might put the short barrel on it just to do something different. But okay, back to the parts. You know, it was $13. And you get 3 crewmen. Let's keep going. Let's see. Okay, time to turn it around again. Sorry, guys, not trying to make you dizzy. Whoa, 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 whoa. Steady, lad, steady. And there's sufficient for a 1/48 scale kit. The detail is fine. It's not like Tamiya Aoshima detailed, but it's detailed enough for. I mean, this is perfect. This kind of thing I love. It looks good up on the shelf, or will look good up on the shelf, but it's not over ticked. I really appreciate that about kits. Flip screen. All right. There's the tracks the way they come. I use the God's Hands clippers, and by God, those things are wonderful. They're expensive, but they're worth it. And here are your troops. You do have to glue the arm on the driver, which is an interesting bit of detail. You got the commander and the radio man with what I guess is his CEOI, is the Communications Electronic Operating Instructions. But, and there's all your wheels that you put together. Really very straightforward. There's the short barrel and the long barrels. One piece upper chassis for the most part. That's really about all there is to that. It's pretty straightforward. I promised I wasn't going to open any more kits in the office here because I got work to do out in the Tarbis. But I got started on this just for the show tonight. And I'll put it on the desk, and when I'm in the mood, I'll get around to it. But it should be a fairly quick build. Speaking of things to do on the Tarbis, I got those Douglas World Cruisers, and I got an email from Mike Machat because he's busy doing at the museum getting ready for the 100th anniversary of the Douglas World Cruiser flight. And he was telling me a whole bunch of stuff, like, for example, that since I have them on their, in the transition being taken off the wheels and onto floats, he told me when they did that, they also changed the propellers to propellers that were made of a different wood that was more salt spray resistant. So now I'm going to go pirate some of my World War I model airplane kits to get some extra propellers so I can show them swapping the props. And I need to repaint the prop on the one that is already in the water, and it's already hardened into the gel. A lot of work left to do on that, but I'm looking forward to it. The more I start playing with this diorama, the more I'm really enjoying it, because, first it was just going to be the airplanes. That was it. But then you add a little here, a little there. You got a few. Well, I'll put one person here. Next thing you know, you're building scenery and wagons and dollies and everything else and turning it into a real diorama. And you're like, I like diorama building. It's fun. It's world building. And super quick bit of VW bus or a quick build. Yeah, very too soon. Fast sports this year. Oh, by the way, just a quick side note. I got some message from you guys over in the UK. I said 2300 Zulu, 7 p.m. East Coast time, and you guys said it's actually midnight there. And I'm like, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. And I've actually got 2 times for the UK. GMT, it's 12:23, but in the UK it's 1:23. So I guess they have like daylight savings time there, which I did not realize. So I'm going to have to...
No, the time zone goes right through the center of the country.
Okay, so where GMT is at is just on one side, I guess.
At least that's the way I understand it.
I didn't know that. But...
Greenwich Mean Time.
Yeah.
It's Greenwich, England is the dividing line. That's what they picked to start the time at.
Okay, so it depends on which side of that line you're on. Okay, that's... So I need to say I need to make it GMT because GMT is different. Okay. Or I could just start putting East Coast time and hell, everybody do their own math. I only started putting the GMT time in there because a couple of folks asked, because we're all over the world, and we're an international live stream. Bruce, the Mystic model ship, was going to call in tonight, but turned out they had other plans that he didn't. He was not. He missed a staff meeting and didn't know, so maybe he'll be with us next week. On the 7th, my birthday is the 4th, and on the 7th, we're going to have a birthday live stream. Talked to Ian today. It's going to be from Hurricane Hobbies. So,
Oh, cool. You mean I get to play with some of those toys in there?
Yes, Ken, you get to play the toys. Well, Bruce asked me to teaching to fly an RC, so I think he's going to buy an apprentice, and which is a trainer RC, for those who don't know, and probably the best one on the market. It's one Ken got me started on, but I think my AMA membership has lapsed, and I'm not part of a club, so we have to find a place to fly it. But anywho, let's see. Proof Max doesn't read the comment. Well, I can't. I'm too busy talking to read. I'm blind. I can only do one thing at a time. Let's try again, Max. Atlantis, the old. Okay. Max and the old Revell and Monogram 132nd scale cars have been really appreciated and accepted by the slot car community. Thanks so much. Are there more to come? The only thing we had in 132nd scale was we had one of them. Which one was it?
It was the Cadillac, the two Cadillacs and the Buick Custom.
Okay. Well, let's see. Let me just go through them again. 25, 24, 25. Yeah, the Cadillacs in 132nd scale. The customizing kits 132nd scale. Was that it?
Yep.
Okay, that was all there was on the 132nd scale. And Cadillac could make a cool slot car. Wouldn't be very fast, but look awesome going around the track. And remember, looking good is what really matters. Trust me, I know these things. Let's see. It's 125 in the UK. I didn't realize the UK had 2 time zones. And Merry anniversary on your date of issue. Yeah. What about the Buick?
What was that?
The Buick was 125th scale, wasn't it?
No, the Buick was 132nd.
Oh, the Buick customizing kit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it does include the car. So yeah.
And it does include the car.
The
Nomad and the 57 Chevy are in 25th.
Okay. So let me just there's the customizing kit. Oops, back up. I told you to pause. 56 Buick Century customizing kit, but it says it includes the model. That's the old Revell kit. And then, of course, the Cadillac, the 56 Cadillac, which...
on the 57 Cadillac.
Hmm?
And the 50... right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you say that? Eldorado Biarritz?
Biarritz.
Eldorado Biarritz. I don't know where they come up with these names. My God, that car, I mean, the phrase land yacht comes to mind. It's beautiful, though.
They certainly were. They were, at the time, the standard of the world.
Yeah, back when the phrase, Cadillac really, really, really meant something. I remember watching...
That enormous car only has 2 doors.
Well, Ken, it's a convertible, That's so the ladies can get in with their dresses. The guys hop over, because we're guys.
It's a sporty car, Ken. Come on. For the well-being.
You can sleep in the back, too.
Hey, Ken.
Many people.
Ken, this car was made for the propeller set.
The what?
The prop set. Come on, do the math. Jets weren't out yet.
Okay, all right, I got that.
So this car was made for the prop set.
Which is why they had the fins.
Oh, God.
No.
It was a play on the jet set, except the jets weren't out yet, so it was the prop set. It loses so much when I have to explain it. Anyway, I saw one at the Elvis Museum, the pink Cadillac he bought his mom. And, I mean, you could pretty much put tracks and a cannon on it and just drive it around as a Panzer. That thing must have weighed 5,000 pounds.
Yeah.
Is it Route 32 because it's 132nd scale?
Yeah, a little bit, because 132nd scale is very popular for slot cars. And what shocked me was when I learned what some of the first slot cars were. They're not race cars. They were basically models that they already made, and some of them were not the kind of thing you would expect to see as a slot car. But yeah, you work with what you got.
It'd be fun to see this be a slot car.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's what John was saying is that the slot car community is glad that the 132nd stuff is out there. It's been well accepted because they can make their own electronic chassis. I mean, go to Scale Car Garage, John's channel, Fast Sports here, and he's always building the slot cars. And oh, I never put my Tarbus up to him. And he's got that down to a science. But by the way, if you guys are all interested in slot cars, you have to check out John's channel, Scale Car Garage. That's what he does, and he makes a lot of his own components and everything, and does a lot of molds and stuff, and he even sells some things. His Porsche's been real popular. It's just it's worth, and he's a great guy. Just I'm gonna get up there and visit you one day, John. It's not an idle threat. But anywho, take a second to read a few comments here.
Should we go back to what you were talking about at the very beginning and said we were going to do that later?
I guess so. Guys, at this point, we're kind of, you might say the kit model part of this is sort of over. I've covered all the material we had. And we'll talk about the thing I'd mentioned at the beginning, because I know some of you guys have some background that might be useful, but I've toyed with I've always said if I could have my ultimate retirement job, it would be being like the host of like a creature feature type show or something like that, or an MSTK 3000, that kind of goofy movie props, models, memorabilia related stuff, kind of be involved in that. Now, a lot of us remember Chiller Theater and these others when local TV stations or regional TV stations would air these shows, and they would have the movie Fright Night. Roddy McDowell is a once famous actor, supposed to have been like Hammer Films, and he's reduced to doing this regional television Fright Night shows. No, well, the name of the movie is Fright Night. That's what the name of his show was. And of course, turns out there's a real vampire. Was it Peter Sarandon? I think was Peter Sarandon that played him. But anyway, great movie. If you haven't seen Fright Night, it's a comedy horror movie, and I would say it qualifies as comedy horror.
Yeah.
And it has a very young Amanda Bierce, you might remember as Marcy Darcy from Married with Children. And anyway, thanks, Mike. But anyway, the Mexican TV already. Yeah, you got Svengoolie and people like that. And we thought about trying to get to a local or a regional TV station just to do something local, but I don't really think they do. I don't really think they do that anymore. The few guys that are, what?
Chris Sarandon.
Chris Sarandon, that was it. Okay. So I think he was made famous in the movie. Was it the reincarnation of Peter Proud? Anyway, whatever. Chicken legs, yeah. One of the Wild's best one-liners is he calls her a chicken, and Marcy literally goes, "Why does he keep calling me a chicken?" Flapping her arms and everything. Oh God, Al Bundy, every man's any man. The live-action Homer Simpson, but America's greatest dad. But probably one of his great.
Homer Simpson. They're making a live-action movie of Homer Simpson.
No, don't.
Yeah.
And they didn't call that the Star. They didn't call that the Star.
We don't need a real life live-action Homer Simpson. We have Al Bundy. Al Bundy was a modeler, yeah. In fact, he flew an RC when he had his next show in Modern Family. But I think Al's greatest one-liner, one of his greatest quips, of which he had so many, were, "Peg, do you know why men die before women? Because they want to." Oh, Al. But, God, the things he would say, in the shoe store to the customers. Don't get snarky with me, kid. Look to your right. That's your future. Girls out there with their mom.
I remember one time all of these heavy women went into the store to protest him, and he said, "What's this, the £1 Million March?"
Or when they took Psycho Dad off the air, Psycho Dad, Psycho Dad. And I'm like, somebody please make the TV show Psycho Dad.
The show is hilarious. It's still hilarious today.
Oh, Lord. Okay, what kind of car did he drive?
A Dodge.
I think it was a 72 Duster, but anyway.
It wasn't a Dodge. It was a Duster. For some reason, they called it a Dodge.
Anyway, that was... every time he shut the door, I slammed the door shut, the hood would pop open. But...
Do you remember the episode where it was about to go over 1 million miles?
Yeah.
They were going to give them... Yeah.
Yep. But they had to be there to film it.
Yeah, and the kids took the car and rode it over 1 million miles, and he didn't get the car.
So he's on the I'm taking it around another 1 million miles, Peg. Oh, yeah. Oh, that was great. So my younger brother, who has occasionally been on this show, used to have a T-shirt when he was in college. It had Christine Applegate, and it said, "I dated Kelly Bundy." But so I was just wondering, how would we go about getting a local TV station or a regional station, to put something like that? How do you even start to put something like that together? And I mean, I'm sure if you just walk up and tell them, "Hey, I've got this great idea," they'll smile and have security escort you out of the building. And
I don't know. That's necessarily true. I mean, first of all, it's still it gets advertisers, and it's a low production cost show.
Yeah,
they're not paying royalties. They're paying not a big salary to anybody who's on the show, and it's usually something that they put on a Saturday night or a Friday night when it's kind of a dead time, after the news, or later than that.
Well, this is the kind of thing that you'd want to do it. You'd want to do this at midnight, or something, when, like you say, that's kind of where your fan base would be at. And but what I'm trying to figure out is, will a local TV station even be interested? And you're not going to do it on their facilities. I would imagine they're like, "Look, if you produce this and put it in the can, we'll consider it." But then you run into like rights issues and everything else. If you want to do a movie. Now, I think we could call it something like Movies in a Model, or Models in a Movie. And if we're going to do a Godzilla movie, then we'd have a Godzilla kit, maybe some tank kits. If we're going to do a war movie, we'd have whatever they were. And we'd build a model in stages during the breaks and everything. And maybe talk about, kind of like a little bit like what's his name does over at Creature Features. Only not that involved. I mean, they've got real sets and camera crews and everything. But...
You could say, hey, that's a Tamaya kit tank over there, and that's a Rebel kit airplane, that they're flying around Godzilla or whatever, things like that.
And they use so many models in all the British sci-fi and stuff. You could do something, we're showing, UFO or Joe 90 or whatever it is, and that's clearly a B-58 Hustler. So let's take this kit and see if we can re-kit bash it the way they did it in the movie. Then they'll show 20 minutes of the movie, come back, and you made some progress on it, and build it throughout the show. And I've seen them do that with cooking. I've seen them do that, where they're baking something throughout the show. I've seen them do that with other stuff where they're making something as you go. So, but how to put it together? Going to see Romulus today. Oh, cool. We're probably going to go see that soon. Stashaholics News Hour.
You got to lampoon the movie, of course.
Oh, of course. That's half the fun. And Attack of the, any Godzilla movie. Oh, look, it's the Attack of the Model Tanks. But
look, they're all going backwards.
Can we make one quicker than he can destroy them?
Yeah. It's the rubber suit versus the styrene tanks.
Or you could turn it into a drinking game. Okay, you got to take a shot every time he blows up a tank.
Yeah. And we'd all leave sauced. Well, that was just
it was
the
costly.
that was just the idea. The thing is, I honestly don't know how to get my foot forward to even approach anybody with something like this. Do you?
Very simple. Look at the worst TV stations in your area.
Well, I think we really only have the one. But
You gotta have more than one.
They got to be looking for something to put on that's entertaining.
well, that's true.
Yeah, especially late at night.
Yeah, late at night when there's hardly anybody watching. Okay, if it flops, no big deal. But if it takes off, hey, they got something to show.
I mean, look at it this way: there's no production costs.
That's true.
Yeah, what's it going to cost them? Oh, you're going to show up with
With a
content.
couple of dollars, and you're going to have, models, and here's a movie.
Yeah, that's a thought. You know what, Al? The thing is, what I'm getting at is you can't just walk in cold to a TV station. They have got this idea, I would think. I mean, maybe you
Why
could.
not?
Why not? And if you go in with a couple of examples and say, hey, I got this stuff that I've done. This is what I did. Would you be interested? I'll bet you somebody would take a look at it.
Go in with storyboards and a couple of videos. And you say,
Yeah.
this is what we do every Saturday night. This is how many people we get on the internet. And we want to do this on TV with a set and, blah, blah, blah. And you can make the set of the hobby store.
I just had a really, really stupid idea.
That's
Oh,
right.
I like it already.
Okay.
What if we showed them the live stream and said, hey, look, you want to, we would like to do the live stream from the studio from midnight to 2. You'd air it live on TV and it would go out simulcast on the internet.
With a movie?
Well, I have to figure out how to work that in there, but yeah, sort of like that. I mean, I'm not exactly sure how that would. Anyway, just a thought.
Well, as you stated, a lot of these movies used models. A lot of them, they were custom built or they were kit bashed from things. You could do kind of like a little bit of, like they do on this Master or whatever. Anyway, where they talk about a little bit the history of the movies. Oh, hey, they spent this much money building the Godzilla suit. The guy almost died. The tanks are, were, these tiny little things that they built hundreds of, stuff like that. Just to give people a little background about the modeling portion of it.
All the Japanese movies have tons of models.
Oh yeah.
Little ones.
Oh yeah.
That they destroy.
Yep.
So, you can start with that. And then you could go to the next level and talk about, like, custom-made things that they made, like Robbie the Robot.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that. The spaceships in some of the space movies. There's a lot of places you could go with that based upon the movie.
And I think it was a good idea to maybe run this by Dan Monroe and see, because he's in the production business. He might have some idea. Thing is, you're actually not geographically restricted to here.
No.
Because with the modern internet, you can just any. You know what? Hold on.
Maybe Dan would want to be in on it.
That'd be grand. And you know what I'm thinking? Shoot 3 episodes, make 3 episodes, and see if we can get a syndication contract. That way anybody that wants it can just pick it up for a flat fee. The only problem you run into is rights. If you're going to show a movie, you got to have the rights to show it.
You make sure that they're public domain movies, like all of these guys do. Why do you think Svengoolie shows the same 40 movies?
Yeah, but
all
what if you want to?
public
I mean,
domain.
I'm pretty sure Godzilla's not in the public domain.
Well, but I'm sure a couple of the other movies, Gamera and a couple of the others are.
Fran points out it must appeal to 2 genres, preferably more vintage movies, models, classic. Yeah, and that's exactly the kind of thing I'm thinking about. Yeah, and models and movies. That wouldn't be a bad working title.
Or models of the movies.
Models in the movies.
Models in the movies. There you go.
Models of the movies. Models in the movies.
Models, movies, and monsters.
That's a little too derivative. Now, if Dan wants to get involved, we could go with that. But I'm not going to steal from him. Yeah. Okay.
Ooh. Models and movies with Max.
Okay.
Max's models and movies.
Yeah. Only I think I put movies first. Movies. Yeah, well,
Max's movie models.
Movie armor. He's got plot armor. YouTube versus TV. Let the fight begin. Styrene and celluloid. I like that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know who Styrene.
I know, but I still like. I mean, you're right. It's a little too split, but I still like it though. Models and mayhem.
No.
Movie model mayhem.
Movie model mania.
Yeah. Models in the movies, yeah, leads to evolved actresses. Yeah,
with the tentacles and the blood. We could have like our own tool girl.
See, this is why you crowdsource. Everybody's got, a lot of people, somebody's, there's a lot of cool ideas, which can be the, and
how about and then there was Max.
Godzilla News Hour. I like that. There's
okay. We put a transmitter on Ken's boat and have him go out to 3 Mile Limit mix. We could be like a
Men on Plastic. That would probably not. I can only imagine what people will be expecting when they dial in that one.
I didn't hear it. What was it?
It was Men on Plastic. Is that a new designer drug? Max needs to sign a contract with a streaming service.
Here goes movies, models, and cats.
Not bad. By the way, on the Gus front, he's I do have something to report. He goes out at night and does his patrol. We have to lock Honey up, but at night he wants to get out of the room, so he does his patrol. But Godzilla tonight, I like that. But apparently, my wife, we have a back porch that has the Panama blinds, but you can open the blinds. There's still glass between the two, but where you can see through. So my wife decided to let the cats just see each other. So she opened it. There's glass between them, of course, but Honey freaked out, and
Whoa.
Gus went back under the bed. So apparently we have a long way to socialization with those two. But
looks like Gus could be the Tarbis cat.
Yeah, we'll get it worked out. Max is modeling the movie. Now there you go. Max is modeling and movies. Max is modeling of movies.
There you go. Yeah, Max is modeling of movies. Yeah, that's pretty descriptive.
Something along those lines, and
then as the subtitle, Men on Plastic. There you go.
I think she's letting Gus out for his nightly patrol. Well, I'll look into it. When I retire, I got to do something. I mean, the basic idea was just to go ahead and make this a professional channel so I can dedicate myself to it full time, and do a, monetize it and everything else when I retire, because I'll be fully focused on it. Right now, it's a hobby. I like doing it. It's fun, but it's, if I can't do it, there's, I'm not losing any money. Oh, by the way, quick side note on that. You guys know I do a lot of history videos. I did one on Operation Pico, which is back in the 70s when Cuba and the Dominican Republic went at it, and Cuba sent its MiG-21s to go buzz the crap out of the Dominicans at Mach 1+ down on the deck and blowing out windows and scaring the crap out of everybody because the Dominicans had a Cuban freighter had gotten too close to the Dominican Republic. They suspected it was a spy ship, so the Dominican Navy went out and hauled it into Puerto Plata till they could find out what the story was. And apparently it was a freighter coming from Angola, and it was up to some shady stuff. Anyway, Castro got mad and sent his MiGs over to go buzz the Dominicans as a warning. And he threatened to bomb them the next day, and he was getting ready to do it when they let the ship go. Anyway, I did an online documentary about it called Operation Pico, when the Cuba and Dominican Republic almost went to war. And they came within a couple hours. But somebody else later did a much better one than I did. He actually was able to do CGI animation. But the one I did, somebody copied it. And I mean, it's not like they use the same images. They even used my maps and everything that I hand drew. They just copied it and dubbed it in Spanish and uploaded it on their channel, which I don't care because I don't monetize my channel, and he's got 4 times as many views on his as I do. So, but I'm actually, imitation's the sincerest form of flattery. I'm actually rather flattered, but I think he did add 1 or 2 little things to it. But I was like, well, kind of a form of backhanded flattery. But that was...
Don't forget your Midway videos that you did. You got quite a bit of attention with those from the Midway people.
Yeah, I did. I got emails back and forth with Anthony Tully and John Parshall, who took time out to answer my emails, and it was pretty detailed too. But they're passionate about spreading the word on that. They're now doing stuff. They wrote the book Shattered Sword, which was one of 7 or 8 books that I read to, although it's probably the primary reference. And, one of the things that that got me to do that, I was just ticked off when I started reading the books and realized how much happened at Midway that never gets brought up in any of the movies or miniseries because the battle was just too complex. But there were Catalinas that were shot down on patrol. There were just a whole bunch of stuff. There was a whole entire night mission with Catalinas that actually had the only successful torpedo attack by the Americans of the whole battle. There was the B-17s that went out and bombed them a couple of times, and just a lot of stuff that happened that was there's just not enough time in a movie to go over it all. People forget the battle. Everybody thinks about the 5 minutes that they sank the Jap carriers, which was a critical part in the apex of the battle. But that battle went on for 3 days, and earned a lot of respect for Spruance and Fletcher. But anyway, so it's only a war crime if you lose the war, huh? But yeah, maybe I should make about 3 episodes, and then just see if I could syndicate it. I know there's the public domain movies, and there's certainly a lot of them to be done. But eventually you're going to want to move beyond that, and
well, by that time you'll hopefully have generated some income, and then you can pay for rights.
I wouldn't think the rights would be that expensive. I have to research that, and it gets into who to even contact about something like that.
Oh, they'll find you.
Yeah. It's like the Disney cops.
Get that movie up, and the next day you'll have a call.
A doctor I know, a heart surgeon I know, wanted to use the Mickey Mouse logo to help advertise his business. He sent...
I don't know if that's a good logo for a heart surgeon.
This was 20 years ago, by the way. He sent letters and emails and everything to their legal department, their PR department. Never heard a peep back out of them. Not a peep. So he printed up some flyers that had just the mouse ears, right? He heard from them the next day.
Yep.
They were standing there with a CND, a cease and desist. Now, the other thing you do is just do it, try to claim common use and see what happens. But anyway, But one of the things is if you're going to build models and have this kind of stuff in between, and you show the whole movie, then it becomes a 3-hour thing, because a 2-hour movie with you putting breaks in it, and
maybe you just edit out the boring stuff in the movie that that doesn't have models in it.
now that's not a bad idea. That's actually, Ken, I think you may be onto something there. Since it's going to be about the movies and the models, just deal with, you can talk about the movie, but just deal with the parts that have the models in it.
Then you'd have 10 minutes of the movie.
Or you could put the stupid stuff in there and talk about how dumb they are.
Well, that is half the fun. You could build a model while the movie's playing and just do like MSTK 3000 and mock it.
Yeah, that's what I would do. That would be much more funny. Yeah, and entertaining. I mean, it's kind of what we do here.
And if it airs online at the same time, the people can give you feedback, and I can hear Gus out there. Apparently he's out on patrol. If I open that door, he'll scurry back under the bed, though, so he is very skittish. And
yeah, sometimes it takes a long time to earn the trust of a cat.
Yeah. Well, Honey kind of ignored me for about 5 years. But,
Isn't that as long as Monica did?
Oh.
I think she heard you. But anywho, that would be a, how would I, I mean, when I look at a lot of the crap that's on TV right now, I'm like, my God, we could make something better than that. Heck, we have made stuff better than that.
That's right.
Yep.
And
look at it this way. You could get people who are in these movies who are still alive, they'd probably come on.
Just for kicks and giggles, sure.
Yeah,
good thought. Yeah, they would love to talk about their movie, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Get a lot of interesting background stuff.
And if you get Ann Robinson, man, we could do Forbidden Planet. I got the C-57D on the table. I get cracking on it.
Ann Robinson?
Ann Robinson.
Well, War of the Worlds.
I'm sorry. That's right, War of the Worlds. I'm sorry. It was Anne Francis. And man, I know better than that. Listen to me. I'm embarrassing myself now.
What's the point?
Well, we're coming up on 9 p.m. That's just about time to wrap it up. Guys, I want to thank everybody coming out. I hope you had a little fun. We had about 150 people at one point, so I guess, and we got everything working. I reloaded down to all the stuff so that the YouTube intake server could handle it and everything, lowered the resolution, which only makes me look prettier, and a few other settings that had to be changed. And one thing I've noticed, every time I boot up OBS, like I got to put all the different settings in now. I don't know why, but it was only recently that the original Mickey Mouses in the public domain. Really? Wow, I didn't know that. History and models and war.
Or the copyright, I think, just expired or something. Yeah, it's the longest running copyright.
Making models in the movies.
Making models up for me.
Making models of the movies. Tonight, we're going to talk about the original Earth versus the flying saucers. So the first thing we need are some pie plates to make the flying saucers. And what was that, a 54 pickup truck? Or steak body? Yeah, some badass aliens. You got taken out by a 52 steak body pickup.
You take those Atlantis flying saucer ships versus the flying saucer.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. Oh, well, that's food for thought.
Okay.
Well, guys, we'll wrap up. I'll let everybody say their good nights, and we will sign off. I'll run the outro so you guys can chat amongst yourselves.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming in. It was fun as always, and we look forward to seeing you next week. And don't forget, on the 7th is the Max's birthday live stream.
From Hurricane Hobbies.
Sure that will be. A lot of fun from Hurricane Hobbies.
Yes, and I will be there also, and bring his special birthday present. You guys definitely do not want to miss this episode. Tell all your friends.
And that's planned for September 7th, guys. Thanks for coming out, spend some time with us. Hope you had a good evening. As always, model on.